It's time for 41 is the Mic, a weekly Chiefs podcast with Nick Jacobs of KSHB 41 and Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mic starts now.
Yes, everyone, it is the regular season for 2024 as the Chiefs begin their unprecedented run for a third straight Super Bowl champion. And alongside me today, as always, is my partner in crime, regular season enthusiast, Nick Jacobs from KSHB 41. Nick, how in the world are you doing today with we've got real football happening right in front of us, a kickoff opener just a few days away on Thursday night. How pumped are you?
Look, Matt, I want to make something clear right now for any law enforcement listening. Matt and I we're not partners in crime. We are not accessories before the fact or after the fact. There is no crimes committed here. Just Chiefs podcasting.
Which, looking around, feels like a crime in and of itself. But be that as it may.
All right, glass half full. That's how we're starting this one out. I love it, Matt.
Well, how can it not be? I mean, it's completely full. I mean, anything can happen. The Chiefs are defending Super Bowl champions. They got an AFC Championship game rematch coming in on Thursday night at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. To make everybody happy about that. What's your mood, Nick? What vibes did you get today out of the complex and with the team and Andy, Patrick? We got to talk to Justin Reed, talk to some other guys in the locker room. Busy day, Nick.
Yeah, there was a lot of people available in the locker room, and obviously, as you said, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Reed at the podium. I was at the podium while other people went in the locker room, and yeah, I mean that's just from Andy, Patrick, and Justin alone. Like that's a pretty focused group right there that understands what's at stake here and how important this game is and how they need to approach it. So I got a feeling each of them collectively and the way they're leaders for this team, I think they're setting a tempo this week to help the new guys understand that, hey, like this has legitimate implications for the whole reason you came here to play football to begin with, not just job wise, but like playoff wise. So this is sending a season opener, sending a message to the rest of the league. The Chiefs have been able to send a message before whenever they've been on the season opener against the Patriots in 2017 when they were against the Texans after they won the Super Bowl. And then obviously the Lions won last year, didn't go their way. And we'll see how this Ravens one goes. But you and I both know everybody across the league, whether it's the Bengals, Bills, whoever, they're all watching to see how the Chiefs team holds up against a team of the Ravens caliber, and people are wanting to see how the Ravens hold up against a team of the Chiefs caliber.
Yeah, and one thing that's going to be common, in this game on both sides of it is that there are going to be a few new faces. And let's touch on that at the beginning because the Chiefs had a whirlwind of activity since they set their 53. They've still made a couple of more moves. They've brought in a couple of new practice squares. We've even had some comings and goings on the waiver wire. But really when it comes down to it, I mean, as far as the 53 goes, Samaje Perine's the only really new addition since the 53 was set, even though his arrival in Kansas City had been rumored a few days and obviously reported a few days before he was officially signed. Brett Veach even talked about it on Thursday before he was officially signed. But Perine, what to you does he really truly bring to this offense?
I mean, for me personally, I'm expecting him to kind of be more of a packaged running back this week, just simply because that's quick turnaround. Try to learn as much of the playbook as they need him to. So if I'm in their shoes, I'm like, hey, you're going to be in on third downs. Here's kind of the plays you need to know. Here's the protections you need to know, and build out from there. So in that regard, I mean that you're crossing your fingers no injuries happen, but that would be where you need to lean on Pacheco, maybe Carson Steele, and depending on Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's situation, you may need them to be the running backs, and P. Ryan, hey, you focus on third down, and then that's how you approach that. So I mean, if I'm in their shoes, I expect all four of them to be active on Thursday night.
Yeah, and Clyde was one of only two players who wasn't on the practice field on Sunday. Hollywood Brown was the other. Clyde, we'll see if he does come back later in the week. I think it's a distinct possibility. We know we won't see Hollywood Brown. How do you, Nick, see that the Chiefs adjusting to that for at least a game or two, not having Hollywood out there?
Well, the beauty of it is they've already had to have 3 weeks of bracing for it. So they've already had, since the Jaguars preseason game, they've had multiple, including this past week where they didn't have, a preseason game. Like they've had 3 weeks to kind of plan, okay, well, we maybe don't do this package here, maybe you don't do these plays here, can Xavier do this, can McCole do this, or do we have to have Juju Smith-Schuster do this part, or can Rice do this part, or Justin Watson or Sky Moore? And then they evaluate each and every guy and see what they can still continue to do based on the route combinations they were wanting to run with him. But they're going to have to threaten with Worthy early. They're going to have to see if the Ravens respect it, because in that AFC Championship game, the Ravens did not respect anybody deep against the Chiefs. The way they were keeping their safeties within 10 yards of the ball and the way they were attempting to take things away, they just did not think that the Chiefs had any threats that they could throw over the top with. So the Ravens kept everything within 10 to 15 yards, and the Chiefs had to move down the field at 10, 12, 13, 14 play style type of drives. And it'll be very interesting to see how quickly the Chiefs can open up their offense and what type of pass protection they get. And you don't really know on the Ravens side what they may or may not do, because McDonald's not running the charge there anymore. Because he's the head coach at Seattle now, and Anthony Weaver went down to the Dolphins. So when you look at the Ravens coaching staff, as the defensive coordinator, you got Zach Orr, and then you have Chris Hewitt as the passing game coordinator. So those two are having to, handle that part of it. And then you've got some other guys that are on the coaching staff that have a little bit of former Chiefs ties, not necessarily Andy Reid, but Chiefs ties overall. So it's going to be a very interesting aspect about what do the Ravens do. And the reason I say part of that, to wrap it up on my part here, is Ravens didn't play in the preseason. Starters didn't play. They held between 30 to 35 guys out, depending on the game, that were going to be contributors, and will either start or be contributors in this upcoming season opener. So it's a really big mystery about what the Ravens will or won't do.
Yeah, continuity or lack thereof is going to be a topic about this game for sure going into it. And I think even Thursday night, we'll see if that ends up being one of the factors in the outcome. And related to that, I have a 2-part question to kind of wrap up talking about the rosters, and we'll go from there. But the final new name that the Chiefs have is a practice squad defensive lineman in Marlon Tuipulotu. Oh gosh, I was so close, Nick. Tuipulotu. Marlon Tuipulotu. There you go. Got it. Practice squad player. But honestly, I think the Chiefs are going to activate somebody from the practice squad for the defensive line for this game. It could be Marlon. Who knows? But what do you feel like that he brings to this team that maybe the Chiefs were lacking?
I haven't watched his tape yet, so I'm behind on checking that part out. So that'll be something that I'll end up putting on social media, hopefully in the next day or so. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm starting to already do preparations for our pregame show on Thursday. You can catch the Chiefs Ravens on KSHB 41. It'll be, so our coverage starts at 4. My pregame starts from 5 to 6. NBC takes over after that. And then you got Chiefs Ravens, and then we'll have postgame right after the game ends, when Chris and Mike are done with their final wrap up of the, doing the postgame interview and doing their final thoughts on the game, and then previewing their Sunday night football game. After that, you get a post game where we'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and all their friends and teammates, and and we'll go from there. But yeah, KSHB 41 after 4 p.m. on Thursday until maybe 11:30 midnight. Who knows how late it'll go? But it will be TV magic no matter what, Matt.
It will be TV magic. The curious thing about well, I don't want to say final, because it's certainly not the final. And it might not even be the final roster of week 1, Nick. The Chiefs could still make some moves between now and Thursday. But right now, it's a very curious breakdown of the roster, because they've got 27 players on offense, 23 on defense. Mm-hmm. That's unusual. You're normally, it's either a 25-25 or a 26-24 one way or the other. You don't see 27-23 very often. And if you do, you certainly don't see it for very long, right?
Yeah, and here's kind of the kicker sometimes is part of it is who do you need to help you scout for week one? So sometimes you may need a couple additional guys to, be Lamar Jackson, or, because it wouldn't stun me if, like, on practice squad, if Ingram isn't having to play the Derrick Henry type of role because he's the closest size-wise to that. Or does Carson Steele have to be Derrick Henry, or how do you kind of rotate that and kind of have that aspect to it? Just like I think Justin Ross is going to have to play the T. Higgins role in maybe some of the routes that Jamar Chase would run outside the boundaries. That's probably going to be his role, for the following week. So part of the time, I like to remind people from a roster numbers perspective. Occasionally, some of that it may be because there's certain scout looks they're trying to get for week one, whether it's on practice squad or in an actual game. So that's why when you see the guys that leave for the week and new guys come in and all that type of stuff and everything, a third of the practice squad is about actually developing certain guys. The next third is about who helps you on scout team. And then the final third is guys that they're planning to elevate that week, potentially, or they want to have ready to potentially elevate depending on the circumstance and situation.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see what does happen along the defensive line, because Chiefs, 9 defensive linemen, 9 defensive backs, 5 linebackers on that defensive roster right now. And against and once again, they only have 4 defensive tackles on the active roster. And against the Ravens, I mean, especially with Derek not being 100% healthy yet, you feel like they are definitely going to need some reinforcements there. But what was your sense? This is really the first time, it seems like in a long time, Nick, that we really got to hear from quite a few players on Sunday, and especially, getting to hear from Reed and Mahomes in the podium. Justin Reed talked for the first time this preseason. What was your kind of takeaway from the things that we heard on Sunday?
Yeah, from Andy, whenever I asked him about, because whenever you and I were on that Zoom on Friday, I got to ask him about, for the new guys on this team, what do you want them to take away from a tempo perspective about what's important and what needs to happen this upcoming week, and kind of occasionally ignore the pageantry that is opening night with the Super Bowls out there and the celebration and the banner dropped and all that type of stuff. How do you kind of keep those new guys to not be awestruck either by their first NFL moment, out there in front of that Kansas City fan base, or just kind of realizing that you are on a team that's the Super Bowl champ? Because I can tell you right now, the Ravens do not care in any way, shape, or form. The Ravens have been thinking about the Chiefs all off season, and I guarantee Todd Monken has been he has been, how do I phrase this? Probably having nightmares nonstop about the fact that they didn't run the football as much as they should, because they were effectively running it and they quit. They did a whole bunch of play action pass, a whole bunch of, of run face and trying to get Jackson to either scramble or get out in space. And like they abandoned their run game in that. And then so they signed Derrick Henry and bring him in to kind of be that battering ram. And I know Justin Reed talked about that from having played him when he was with the Texans, and Henry was with the Titans at the time. And I mean, that was brought up. And I know when I asked Justin about kind of this game and the tempo and everything, he said, do you expect them to run the ball? And he's like, they're going to run the ball. We know they're going to run the ball, and they'll see if we can stop it or not, type of thing. And just kind of the way Justin approached that, like, they've all got that mentality that they're going to run the football. And for the Ravens, like, I think they probably feel, because Matt, you'll be stunned to know, I watched the game again last night, and
not stunned at all.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of refresh my mind and everything about, because that's the thing. And I'm going off on a rant here, and I apologize, but like, that's not necessarily a rant, just a long-winded tunnel or scenic route, whatever. But like, that's the thing. I forgot so much of that game because of us being at camp and seeing the new era. Just how, those key moments, and like when L'Jarius Sneed punched the ball out from Zay Flowers, when the Chiefs got burned deep on one Zay Flowers catch for a touchdown because Leo Chanel didn't get the sack, and then another one because of just rotating over, somebody was out of position, and Zay Flowers had the taunting penalty. And then a couple plays later, after Snead got taunted, Snead punched the ball out. And just the way the Chiefs worked down the field in that first half of that game, and then the Ravens took everything away that the Chiefs had available. And I just, watching that game, it reminded me just how tough it was for the Chiefs to move the ball in that game because they didn't have the speed that they did, and they didn't have the weapons that they do on this roster now. Because I was thinking last time, like, hey, they didn't have a Carson Steele in that game. They didn't have a Jared Wiley. Didn't have a Juju Smith-Schuster, did not have an Xavier Worthy, obviously didn't have a Hollywood Brown, and a, technically a healthy offensive line like they're going to have this week. So just all that combined, I'm like, man, they really didn't have a lot of those things that you want, to be able to effectively move the ball and not have to worry about what the defense is or isn't trying to do. So, I mean, it was primarily them tossing in the flats to Pacheco, or occasionally getting something to NVS, or, getting it to Kelsey on a regular basis, or getting it to Rice, or screen, and occasionally bringing in big personnel to run it down their throat with Pacheco. And there were some runs there that I'm like, man, Carson Steele, I think he does some stuff there, and maybe Pirine, I think he does some stuff there. But I will say, and I don't mean to be mean, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that game, there was just the lack of speed he had really kind of put them behind the sticks on 3 or 4 different drives that they had to either try to overcome, or it derailed the drive a couple of times. And man, Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton, like those guys, and Patrick Queen too, those guys were tempo setters in that game. And I will say this, Trey Smith and potentially Roquan Smith, I think there's some unfinished business there because Trey got him on a pole and kept blocking him, and then the whistle blew, and then Trey stopped, and then Roquan pushed him, and then within a play, Roquan, you remember, hit him when he was in his stance, knocked him over, and like they got another personnel foul, and the Ravens just melted down. I forgot how much the Ravens melted down on that final drive whenever they had a couple either unnecessary roughness or personal foul penalties and everything. And so it took me back a lot of those memories, and so that's my scenic route, Matt. There was a lot of interesting things from that game, but there's a lot of new faces that are going to make this game different, either good or bad.
Yeah, and let's face it, I mean, even though the Chiefs have a ton of continuity on the defensive side of the ball, that's going to be going up against a Ravens offense that, other than, Derrick Henry coming in, is also a lot of the same faces, and something definitely to prove. One of the storylines of the Chiefs during the training camp has been that they have not had their first team together for essentially anything. I mean, really, last week was the first time that they held a practice in which they had all 11 of their projected starters on the field at the same time. Really hadn't happened until after that third preseason game. So they're only going to have a handful of practices. But I talked to Nick Bolton today, and he didn't seem to have that concern. I mean, he acknowledges, it's a problem when you haven't had all your guys out there, but he seems to feel like it's not going to be a big deal for them because, hey, he and Chris Jones and Justin Reed, they've been playing together for a few years now. They've got so many guys who have experience in the Steve Spagnuolo system. And, it even goes back to something that Dave Merritt said to us a couple of weeks ago about the fact that this defense can do more than it used to when, certainly in year one for Steve Spagnuolo, because of that, institutional memory that they've got of these guys who have played together or been in the system for 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, do you have any concerns about this defense having not spent a lot of time together during either the off season or during training camp together?
Here's what I don't I don't think it matters. I know that sounds weird to say, but I think every defense right now is going to have missed assignments. They're going to have blown assignments. They're going to have issues because they're not in the swing of the season yet. So it's going to happen across the board, whether they did or didn't play in a preseason game together. And so I'm just telling you right now, I don't think that makes a difference. What I think makes a difference in those first couple of weeks is how physical is your defense? How much are you willing to attack? And can you keep from getting burned over the top? And can you, with the sloppy play that a lot of teams have, can you be the team that forces turnovers in those first couple of games when people are still adjusting and are sloppy with holding on to the football before they get used to the hitting conditioning that they're going to have over these next couple of weeks? So who are the more physical teams? Which guys, have the cramps early on because they're not used to at that level, that tempo, that long, and snap counts, and depending on what type of heat maybe wherever each team's playing and everything. So all those things combined, I think, all play a factor in it. So this is where you start to actually build your defense or your hopefully offense in some ways. This is where you kind of build that cohesiveness, and most teams aren't going to be hitting on all cylinders till like week 7, week 8. So right now is where each team's putting it together, and like Nick Bolton said to you, like you're hoping so many of them being in the past experiences of much bigger games, whether it's AFC championships or Super Bowls or playoff games and everything, you're hoping they're all able to collectively lean on that in some of those key moments.
I'll put you on the spot with a weird question, Nick. Something we didn't talk about that.
Let's go for it.
But you've prompted it out of me because of some of the things you've been addressing. Which do you think in week 1 is something better? Is it speed or is it physicality? Which one do you think that players are less ready to handle right now? Is it a team that's just faster than you are, or a team that's more physical than you are?
I think physicality is the tougher thing early on in the season for teams to be able to match with one another. So I think but what I will say is for somebody, so where you're going to need the physicality is the Chiefs offensive line needs to be physical. The Chiefs defensive line, the Chiefs front 7 needs to be physical. They got to be like whenever Derrick Henry or whoever's running that ball, whenever they get going, they need to be able to physically tackle them, just like Justin Reed did on some plays that I watched in the AFC Championship game. So whenever you're going against the likes of Derrick Henry or they got Rasheen Ali. I'm going to be sad watching him because I was hoping he'd be a Chief. But the guy that kind of could be sneaky for them from a screen or pass perspective is Justice Hill, because he converted a couple first downs against them out in the flats because of the packages they had from a coverage perspective. And so they were able to kind of manipulate that with Justice Hill. So Justice Hill and Zay Flowers are really what was keeping them going. And then Mark Andrews was just coming back from injury then, and Isaiah Likely really didn't have the impact in that game that I thought he was going to going into it. So I think those are kind of the 4 that I think really will determine how the Ravens offense does, because with Lamar's going to be about speed, and if he is a little bit faster from losing weight, which is been the big storyline and everything, then they're going to need 4 to contain however they do that. And the Chiefs did a good job during that game of using 3 and dropping zones and making them uncomfortable and having a spy available. So they just couldn't. Lamar just felt like he couldn't leave the pocket, that he had to make a decision there, and he waited and waited and waited, and that took off the rhythm of everything. But then there's a couple of times where he took off and made the Chiefs pay. But part of it was because they used heavier packages, like jumbo personnel on one of those, which was a big conversion that ended up leading to the Zay Flowers touchdown. So I think the Ravens, I think the message personally is like, hey, we would have gone to the Super Bowl. We would have won the Super Bowl if we had run the ball in that game. We will not make that same mistake twice, and we're going to go out here and prove it against the Super Bowl champions that we were actually better than them in the AFC Championship game. That's what those Ravens coaches have to be selling this week to that offense and that defense, and the defense probably already believes it. It's just a matter for the Chiefs. Can the Chiefs throw some stuff at Zach Orr and Chris Horton that they are not expecting that will cause them problems? Are they not respecting Xavier Worthy deep early? Are they not respecting the ball early? Are they expecting Kingsley to have some struggles and they're going to bring some blitzes off that side? And if they do you have a crossing route already available to burn them? Do you have a slant route available to potentially burn them? Or do you have something in the flats that kind of peels off of that you can check down and continue to torch them until they stop? So It's going to be interesting to see how aggressive they are from a Ravens defense perspective and what the Chiefs are able to kind of put together in terms of pieces. And there's some stuff that I guarantee Andy and them got ready that the Ravens aren't going to be expecting. And there's some stuff that the Ravens probably have that that they're expecting. Each team is going to have the plan ready based off either what their tendencies are or what they think they're going to try to copy and paste from the AFC Championship game. It's just a matter of if Steve Spagnuolo or Andy Reid or Harbaugh or Monken or what are they showing to where they're like, hey, it looks like the AFC Championship thing, and then abracadabra, it's actually this. So it's going to be a fun chess game between these two teams. I don't think this decides, who's going to the Super Bowl or anything like that, but it is going to put the rest of the league on notice if somebody wins decisively either way.
Yeah, we're probably making a lot about the fact that Baltimore has a new defensive coordinator, but the guy's been with them for a while. So, Zach Orr knows the Ravens way. So it's not going to be dramatic in that standpoint, but you're talking about Andy Reid let's just use the offensive coordinator, and Matt Nagy as the offensive coordinator against a first-time defensive coordinator in the NFL. That's where, to me, the most potential mismatch is, because that chess game between the two of them there, that's a chess game that you're hoping is in Andy Reid's favor. But what to you, Nick, what's the key to a Chiefs victory in this game?
Holding on to the football. That's going to be number one.
My number one as well.
Yeah. Either being more physical than the Ravens are or being just as physical as the Ravens are. Like, they're going to have to be able to match that. And then are there times where some of the new pieces that you have available in a Carson Steele, in a Samaje Perine, and an Xavier Worthy, and a Juju Smith-Schuster, and a Jared Wiley, those guys that you didn't have last time, are there ways that you can use them that the Ravens aren't expecting and that overwhelms the Ravens? And then lastly, it's about keeping Patrick Mahomes upright and keeping him protected from some of the stuff they're going to see. And then finally, on defensive side of the ball, can you stop the run? Can you slow down the run? And can you contain Lamar? If you can contain Lamar and make him feel uncomfortable and keep him in that pocket, like that's going to be key from a defensive factor. But you can only do that if you slow down the run and stop the run, because if you take away the run from the Ravens, like they're gonna go into haywire. Like that's just who Lamar is as a quarterback. So I am very intrigued, Matt. There's a lot across the board I'm very intrigued by.
I just want to say ditto to everything you just said, because I think that's pretty much my three keys in order as well. Protecting the football, absolutely the biggest thing. My final parting thought on this, Nick, is that I think three rookies are going to be pretty integral to this to a potential Chiefs victory. Because the Chiefs win, I think we're going to be looking back at it and saying, you know what, Kingsley Suamadi did his job. He did a really nice, had a really nice performance. Was probably strong in the run game, helped protect Mahomes, didn't make any fatal mistakes. I think Xavier Worthy is going to have a big play if the Chiefs win this game. Might only just be one, but one play from Xavier Worthy could turn the balance of this game if it's a big play. And I'm really interested to see on the defensive side how the Chiefs deploy Jaden Hicks, because we've talked about it time and time again. I mean, I feel like that they have been prepping to use him as a weapon, as a blitzer, as a spy, as a guy who goes after the quarterback from the second level. And I'm just fascinated to see what the first time is when he and Lamar Jackson meet on the field. So we'll see if it happens, Nick, but that's to me. I mean, if the Chiefs can keep a guy like Lamar Jackson from just running all over them, because Ravens are going to try to run the football, because they didn't the last time that these two teams met. And I think you're right. They regret it. Short show, a little bit of a short show today, because it is a work day at 1 Arrowhead Drive. Nick's got Sunday Sound Off coming off later. A lot of sports on KSHB. Never fear, though, we are going to be back on the Chiefs Digest channel Tuesday night with our live Q&A as usual. So if you have any questions about this week, we're going to be there for that. And like Nick said, KSHB 41 is going to be chock full of pregame coverage leading up to this one on Thursday night. So be sure you check that out. Nick, anything else on your mind you want to make sure we get out there?
Yeah, I have two underrated storylines. I know they'll get bigger during the week, and I regret not asking Patrick Mahomes the press conference about it. The Justin Tucker little battle royale thing, how that'll work out this time around. I'm definitely going to remind our camera, if we got a camera person available at the time, hey, keep tabs on Justin Tucker, and if he tries to get in Mahomes and Kelsey's head again, or for how that works out on that front. And then the same on the other end with Harrison Butker. If the Ravens kind of get a little huffy about wherever Harrison Butker may be working at. So that part I'm going to be intrigued. That's another little intriguing thing. And if Justin Tucker talks this week, I got a feeling Baltimore is going to bring that up. And we'll see if the NBC broadcast does. I know it'll potentially be on the pregame show. And then the other thing is just... I'm intrigued to see. I'm going to keep tabs on Roquan Smith, like I said earlier, and that Ravens. I'm just curious how chirpy the Ravens are going to be on defense this game, because they were trying to intimidate the Chiefs in that AFC Championship game, and it didn't work out. So I'm just curious how the Chiefs respond with this new offense, with all the pieces they have. How are they able to respond? And so for like somebody like Worthy. Or Rashee Rice or Carson Steele, I'm really intrigued if they can be tempo setters to kind of help add some spark that the Chiefs offense wasn't able to have in that AFC Championship game.
Yeah, this could be a great game. It really should be. These are two very good teams. I would be surprised if these two teams did not meet again later down the road, because they, I think, are the cream of the crop of the AFC. So this could be a prelude of a postseason battle down the road.
And I'm also, it's good that the Chiefs are going to have this game on Thursday, because I think they'll need those the Friday, Saturday, Sunday extra days to rest before they host the Bengals the following Sunday. I think those will come in really big for them to be able to recoup. But it also gets the Chiefs kind of set from a tempo perspective, whether they win or lose. It gets them set from a tempo perspective about what they're going to face against the Bengals. So I think so if they can come out of this with a Ravens win, I think it sets them up in a really good spot for whenever they play the Bengals the following week, both from a recuperation perspective and also from a tempo perspective, but also gives a lot of those new guys on the roster the experience and exposure of, okay, this is what playing the AFC North is like. Okay, this is what playing teams who have lost to you in the AFC Championship is like. So then I just think it's going to give a lot of these guys the new guys, I think it's going to give all of them good experience of what it's like to play Chiefs playoff football, because those two teams are going to have that type of level and that type of tempo from the guys that have been there and experienced that over the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a learning experience for the rookies in this one, and the new faces that the Chiefs have, especially on offense. They're going to get first up-close personal taste of just what life is in the NFL, and especially in the AFC, especially in Kansas City, when the target is on your back, because every team every week is going to be coming at you. And we'll be coming back at you, like I said, Tuesday night. We'll be on the Chiefs Digest channel Thursday. Be sure to catch all the pregame action over on KSHB. And then Nick, and we'll figure out sometime Thursday, probably late night, early Friday morning, to get back in your threads with 41 is the mic. So you'll see us at some point on Friday. Rest assured.
Yeah, you'll see it Friday morning. You're not going to see it Thursday night, because you'll still be at the stadium. I'll still be doing a post game. So until you see the closer for KSHB 41 when you're watching the post game, once that hits, you'll be like, all right, the podcast will definitely be out in the next 8 or 9 hours. So until
very possible, if you've got insomnia and you're awake at 3 a.m, you never know. It might just pop up on your stream. So
yeah, well, maybe not. I think if you look at 6 a.m., you'll be good.
Well, we can't wait. It's going to be a great week, a lot of fun this week. So be sure to follow all the coverage on ChiefsDigest.com and KSHB.com. We're looking forward to everything this week. Join us on Tuesday night if you have any questions, and we will see you then.
And as Omar says in The Wire, famous in that city of Baltimore, come at the king, you best not miss. So we'll see what the Baltimore Ravens do. So until next time, I bid you adieu.
You've been listening to 41 is the Mic, presented by KSHB 41, your home of the Chiefs and Chiefs Digest.